You've set the same goal 3 years in a row. Maybe it's exercise, maybe it's writing, maybe it's reading more, spending less, or finally building the thing you keep saying you'll build when you have more time. The goal is clear, the intention is real, and somehow, 3 years later, you are in almost exactly the same place. James Clear wrote this book because he thinks he knows why, and his answer is going to feel obvious in retrospect, which is the exact reason most people miss it. The problem is not your goal. The problem is that you've been trying to change outcomes without changing the system that produces them, and no amount of goal setting fixes a broken system. Here's what does. The 1% principle: why small changes feel useless until they're not. Clear opens with a number that doesn't sound impressive until you do the math. If you improve by 1% every day for 1 year, you end up 37 times better than when you started. If you get 1% worse every day for the same year, you decline to nearly 0. The problem is that 1% improvement on any given day is completely invisible. You exercise once and look exactly the same. You read for 20 minutes and feel no smarter. You save a small amount and your bank account barely moves. Nothing looks different.
This is why people quit. Not because the system isn't working, but because the results are stored in what Clear calls the plateau of latent potential. The work is accumulating under the surface. The breakthrough hasn't happened yet. And without visible evidence, the brain concludes nothing is working. Clear's metaphor is ice melting. You have a cube of ice in a cold room. You raise the temperature 1 degree at a time. 27 degrees, 28, 29, 30. Nothing happens. The ice looks exactly the same. Then you hit 32, and it melts. Was the work wasted at 27, 28, 29, 30? No, it was necessary. You just couldn't see it yet. Try this before you move on. Think of one habit you abandoned because it wasn't working. Trace back honestly. How long did you actually give it? In most cases, you quit somewhere in the plateau, right before the point where the results would have shown up.
Identity, the most important idea in the book. Most people approach habit change from the outside in. They set an outcome, lose 20 pounds, write a book, save $10,000, and then try to work backward to the behavior that produces it. Clear argues this is why most habit change fails. Outcomes are about what you get, but the only thing that produces lasting behavior change is shifting who you believe you are. He calls this identity-based habits, and the difference is specific. 2 people are trying to quit smoking. Someone offers both of them a cigarette. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." The second says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." Same outcome, different identity, and only one of them has actually changed. Every action you take, Clear says, is a vote for the type of person you are becoming. Not a declaration, not a commitment, a vote. One vote doesn't win an election, but votes accumulate into evidence, and eventually the evidence becomes belief. You do not become a writer by finishing a book. You become one by writing each day, casting votes, building evidence, until the identity is no longer something you're trying to become. It's something you are. The question worth sitting with, for the habit you most want to build, what kind of person would naturally do that thing? Not what outcome do you want? Who do you need to become? Start there. The behavior follows.
The habit loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. Every habit, good or bad, simple or complex, runs on the same 4-step loop. A cue triggers the behavior. A craving creates the motivation. A response is the behavior itself. And a reward closes the loop, telling the brain this sequence is worth remembering. You wake up and your phone is on the nightstand. That's the cue. The craving is stimulation, connection, the feeling of being caught up before the day starts. The response is scrolling.
The reward is a hit of novelty that satisfies the craving just enough to reinforce the whole loop. The reason this matters is not academic. Understanding the loop means you can intervene at any point, not through willpower, but through design. Remove the cue, and the habit never starts. Make the craving less attractive, and the motivation weakens. Increase the friction on the response, and fewer loops complete. Remove the reward, and the brain stops encoding the behavior. Clear turns this into 4 laws, not as theory, but as a design checklist for any habit you want to build or break. The rest of the book is built on these 4 laws. Before the next section, a concrete exercise. Pick one habit you want to break. Write down honestly, what is the cue? What craving is it actually satisfying? You might find the craving is not what you think. The phone isn't about information. The snack isn't about hunger. Identifying the real craving is the first move. Law 1. Make it obvious. Clear's first law is about visibility, because habits are triggered by cues, and cues only work if you actually encounter them. He introduces 2 tools that are simple enough to sound almost too easy and specific enough to actually work. The first is implementation intention, a formula that replaces vague intention with a precise plan. Instead of "I will exercise more," you write, "I will exercise at 7 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at the gym on my way to work." Research Clear cites shows that people who use this formula are significantly more likely to follow through, not because of discipline, but because the decision has already been made. The brain isn't deciding whether to go, it's just executing a plan that already exists. The second tool is habit stacking, linking a new habit to an existing one. The formula: after I do X, I will do Y. After I pour my morning coffee, I will write for 10 minutes. After I sit down at my desk, I will review my 3 priorities. After I brush my teeth at night, I will read 1 page. The existing habit is the cue. The new habit rides its signal. Put it into practice right now. Write 1 implementation intention for a habit you've been meaning to start. Day, time, location. Then write 1 habit stack. What existing habit could you attach it to? The formula is the system. You just need to fill it in.
Law 2. Make it attractive. We repeat what we find rewarding, and we find rewarding what our brain has learned to anticipate with pleasure. Clear's key insight here is that the craving drives behavior, not the reward itself. Dopamine spikes when you anticipate the reward, not when you receive it. This is why scrolling feels compelling before you start and hollow after you stop. The anticipation was the payoff. Understanding this changes how you design habits. If you want to build a behavior, you need to make it feel attractive before it starts, not after. Clear introduces temptation bundling, pairing a habit you need to do with something you genuinely want to do. Only listen to your favorite podcast while running. Only watch the show you're watching while folding laundry. Only have the coffee you love while doing your morning review. He also makes a point that most habit advice ignores. The social environment shapes what feels attractive. We are wired to imitate behavior that earns approval from people around us. If everyone in your environment treats reading as normal, reading feels natural. If everyone around you skips the gym, skipping feels fine. Something worth asking yourself. Look at the habits you most want to build. Then look at the people you spend most time with. Do those 2 things point in the same direction? If not, that tension is not a willpower problem. It's an environment problem.
Law 3. Make it easy. This is the law most people skip, and it is arguably the most powerful. Clear's central claim: you do not rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your friction. Every extra step between you and a habit is a small but real reduction in the probability you'll do it. The gym bag you have to pack, the app you have to find, the notebook that's in another room. None of these feels significant. Together, they are the difference between a habit and a good intention. The solution is not willpower. It's design. Put the book on your pillow. Put the gym bag at the door. Put the fruit on the counter and the cookies in a high cabinet. The goal is to make the desired behavior require less energy than the alternative. He also introduces the 2-minute rule, one of the most practical ideas in the book. Any new habit should be reducible to a version that takes 2 minutes or less. Not read before bed. Read 1 page before bed. Not exercise every morning. Put on your running shoes. Not meditate for 20 minutes. Sit in the meditation position. The 2-minute version is not the goal. It is the ritual that makes starting automatic. And starting, Clear argues, is almost always the hardest part. Once you are in motion, continuing is easy. The barrier is always at the beginning. Here's the test. Take the habit you most want to build. Strip it down to its 2-minute version. Not the full habit, the minimum version that still casts a vote for who you want to become. Do that for 2 weeks before you expand it.
Law 4. Make it satisfying. The brain encodes behaviors that produce positive feelings immediately after they occur. This is not a design flaw. It is how the brain decides what is worth remembering. The problem is that most valuable habits, exercising, saving money, writing, building a skill, produce rewards in the future, not right now. The brain, running on ancient wiring, is not naturally patient. Clear's solution is to create immediate satisfaction where the habit's natural reward is delayed. Tracking a habit on paper, moving a paperclip from one jar to another for every call made, checking off a box, a small ritual at the end of a focused work session, something that signals to the brain, this was worth it. He also introduces the never miss twice rule, and this one deserves special attention. Missing a habit once is an accident. Everyone misses once. The damage is not in the miss, it is in what follows the miss. Skipping once changes nothing. Skipping twice begins to build a new identity, someone who skips. The first miss is neutral. The second miss is the start of a new habit. Never miss twice. One thing to build today? For a habit you're currently tracking or want to track, design the smallest possible reward for completion. Not a big reward, not food or money. A check mark, a note, a ritual you actually enjoy. The brain just needs a signal. Give it one.
The honest limits, what Clear doesn't say loudly enough. This book is genuinely excellent, and the framework is real. But there are 2 things worth being honest about. First, the book focuses almost entirely on individual behavior and says almost nothing about structural constraints. Not everyone has equal ability to redesign their environment. If you work 2 jobs, live in a crowded household, or have limited control over your schedule and space, some of Clear's advice, make it obvious, reduce friction, design your environment, requires resources that aren't equally available. The framework is sound. The application is harder for some people than the book implies. Second, identity-based change, which is the book's most powerful idea, is also the most psychologically complex. Clear makes it sound relatively clean. Decide who you want to be, cast votes, become that person. But for many people, existing identity is deeply entangled with past experience, relationships, and beliefs that a habit framework alone does not touch. The book is not a substitute for deeper work on self-concept. It is a tool that works well once that foundation is stable. Neither caveat cancels the central argument. The 4 laws work. The identity framing works. Used honestly and adapted to your actual circumstances, this is one of the most practically useful books written on behavior change in the last 20 years.
Clear ends the book with a line that is easy to rush past. Success is not a goal to reach or a finish line to cross. It is a system to improve, an endless process to refine. The goal was never the point. The goal was a useful direction, something to aim at. But the person you become through the system is what actually lasts. You don't have to overhaul your life today. You don't have to build 10 new habits this month. You need to build one, the right one, small enough to start, attached to who you are becoming. And you need to start it before this video ends. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not when conditions are better. The system starts with one vote. Cast it now. Clear ends the book with a line that is easy to rush past. Success is not a goal to reach or a finish line to cross. It is a system to improve, an endless process to refine. The goal was never the point. The goal was a useful direction, something to aim at. But the person you become through the system is what actually lasts. You don't have to overhaul your life today. You don't have to build 10 new habits this month. You need to build one, the right one, small enough to start, attached to who you are becoming. And you need to start it before this video ends. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not when conditions are better. The system starts with one vote. Cast it now.